Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And a very good evening to you and welcome to Newsline Zoom. Hopefully this would be the last in the present series of Newsline Zoom because these challenging circumstances are nearly coming to an end. So, thank God for Zoom. Now then, our guest this evening is all the way from down south. He's a rising political star, if I may say that. Of course, he represents the SJB and is hoping to participate in the next parliamentary elections. And I thought we'd ask him this question right now. But let's first introduce him, although he doesn't need any introduction, really. Mr. Rehan Jayawickreme, all the way from down south from Weligama. Very good evening to you, Rehan.
Good evening, Faraz. How has COVID been treating you? Look like you got a lot thinner.
Well, yeah, COVID made its appearance, and I think I'm at the tail end. I'm waiting for the result of a PCR test, which will be done later today. So let's see, fingers crossed and all that business. But actually, I think the vaccination programs obviously worked. I've had 2 jabs. And I feel nothing other than or I did feel a dull headache, and basically that's really it. And I wondered, Rehan, whether this dull headache is something that the whole country is sharing because of the state of the economy. And they must be getting instant dull headaches the whole time. What do you have to say? What do your constituents say to you about the rising cost of living?
Like I always mention, I think we predicted this on the show that I had with you, I think a few months ago, where I specifically told you that the cost of living is going to get considerably high by December. And it has already, happened, I think now. People are finding it very difficult to survive. I'm not going to push it to the extreme of saying that people are dying of hunger, but people are literally, that's going to be the next thing. The next thing which is going to happen now is that people are going to start dying from hunger.
Okay, everybody comes on the show really talks about the present problems. And I dare say, the Republic knows the problem, knows of the problem. Some people are living the problem. Some people can't cope with the problem. And I'm told in certain cases, they've committed suicide because they can't take it. The situation is quite dire, quite stark. What, Rehan Jayawickreme, what can, the collective opposition do to help the government to deliver to the collective republic? Because whether you're in party A, B, C, SJB, SLPP, TNA, or whatever, the bottom line is, of course, that all of you represent the people, albeit with different ideologies. But the fact of the matter is people first. So what can be done, Rehan, to soften the blow to the Republic?
I think for us, on multiple occasions, the leader of the SJB, Mr. Sajid Premadasa, along with lots of other members, have repetitively told this government that we are ready to help them. Obviously, helping them is not coming into a national government or anything like that. But then, what we have told them is that they can approach our members, the ones that are qualified. For example, Harsha De Silva, Iran Vikramratha, people who are well versed in economics. There have been various requests for the government to, approach us for help, and they have not done it. And I don't think they think that they require any help, which is a very dangerous thing. I mean, the whole country knows that the country is in turmoil. The whole country knows that the economic status is in dire straits. The entire country knows that the rulers of this country, the current regime, have failed them. And yet, they still don't think that they need help. And that is clearly evident, for example, with the central bank governor, who still pretends that there's nothing wrong, who still pretends that everything is hunky-dory when it's actually not. And when you look at the tweets of the central bank governor, and when you see how lightly he's taking all this, I mean, on the 1st of January, I saw that he had posted a picture with his Labrador retriever on his official Twitter account. Now, all this posting on their personal media pages, they are fine. That's okay. but he should understand that as the central bank governor, he has to have collective responsibility. So on the 1st of January, he has posted a picture of his Labrador and said, that the Labrador brings him joy. And then, I mean, how do you have empathy? How do you think that people of this country are going to react to the fact that we have a central bank governor who believes that printing is better than actually obtaining funds from overseas, who posts pictures like this on his? So that's just one example for us. That shows the lack of empathy of this current government. And also, if you can just give me a minute, there is not even one government minister who has come out and said that they're openly sorry for what the government is going through, for what the people are going through. There are gas cylinders blowing up. I think you remember for us, I was in India with Minister Jeeman Thondama and Kavinda Jayawardena when I specifically said that, this gas issue is going to be a huge issue because that was only one explosion. And now there are multiple explosions. The Litrogas chairman is still not resigning. Lasantha Alagiyawanna and Bandula Gunawardena are still not apologizing to the people. The Prime Minister, the President, and this entire group of the hierarchy have yet not apologized to the people. So how can you expect anything better from them? And how can we go and help a party that seems to think that they don't require any help?
But in the meantime, if you took that attitude, the people, the Republic, will continue to suffer. Don't you feel for them, Rehan?
It's because we feel for them, for us, that we have specifically told the government that we are ready to help. But, all this stems up to the fact that I repeatedly said that anyone who raised their hand for the 20th Amendment should, really face the repercussions of their actions. It's because they created such a strong executive presidency time and time again. They made it even more powerful with the 20th Amendment. There's nothing called checks and balances. Anything and everything that they do with impunity. And what can we as opposition do for us? A lot of people are saying that we are very ineffective as opposition. But then to those that are saying that we are ineffective as opposition, I'm saying, how do you want us to be effective? With dictatorial powers being used to govern this country and ministers running amok and people like the central bank governor pretending like everything is, fine. And how do you really help people like that for us? So it's up to the people that when they vote for the next time, when they vote at the next election, to vote for a competent bunch. But then again, how do you expect the people to vote when just the other day, the local government elections last night was extended by a year? Provincial councils have not been held for almost 3 to 4 years. So I have a feeling that, the way these guys are going, they probably think that the best option for them is to have a general election next year when the president can dissolve parliament, because they probably feel that because of the fact that they have diluted the powers of parliament and the prime minister to such a level that no matter what happens, that they'll still have their president until 2025. And that's a very dangerous trend, that we're at a dangerous road that we're traveling on.
The thing is, Rehan, I hear what you say about the postponing of the elections, and it doesn't come as any surprise to analysts and observers of the political scenario. But also what is striking me at the moment is that we had a similar situation under the Palanista government, who were obviously reeling from the negativity caused by their own actions vis-a-vis the so-called bond scam. And, we had Minister Faisal Mustafa, this minister at the time, who came there on Newsline and told me very famously that there were spelling mistakes in the draft bill or whatever, and therefore the provincial council elections are going to take even longer. He obviously didn't know what F7, the F7 button, meant on his Windows computer. But no, look, not to be so flippant, but the problem is that the people are finding it difficult in the extreme to live. The prices of vegetables have gone sky high. And, 62% of the working population of our country are reliant on daily wages. And in your constituency, which is very tourist-centric, I noticed from photographs that the tourist areas are quite full. They're filling up. But by and large, what's the long-term solution? We've had some people say that we shouldn't pay this $500 million bond that's coming up on the 18th, and that it should be rescheduled and so on. What do you think? What is your focus, and how can we get out of this mess?
The only way, I mean, there may be certain parties who are even known to me who may disagree with what I'm about to say. But the only way forward, the way I see it, is to go to the IMF. Because, you know, the IMF has been part of integral projects that have lasting impacts in Sri Lanka. The Mahaveli project, for example, and, you know, various projects that they have helped us with. The only reason I'm saying that, you know, we should go to the IMF is because of the fact that we have exhausted all our options of repaying the loans that we took. Now, if you look at the loans that we took that are white elephants, for example, the Mattala Airport, the Mattala Convention Center, all these things that we took loans, you know, yes, we did build all these things, and yes, it does look nice. But then where is the money coming in to these particular projects that would have helped us pay back these loans? So none of the projects that were initiated by the RAS regime, and the way the reason I'm calling it a regime, I'm not talking about the Yahapalana government. I'm talking about the Mahinda Rajapaksa regime. If you look at all the loans that they took, are worthless loans. Now that's where the problem started, and now it has come to a point where we have. What I feel for us is that the Sri Lankan government must be thinking that China and India will come and do a last-minute bailout. But my question is, under, you know, what will those conditions be? You know, because to come and give us something like $7 to $8 to $10 billion, they are not just going to give it to us free. So what are the conditions that come with it? And when you look at the airport in Uganda, if I'm not mistaken, which was funded by the Chinese, and which was later reclaimed by the Chinese because that government couldn't pay their loan. You know, it's a matter of time before these establishments. It's a matter of time before these establishments are going to be taken over by the people that gave us these loans. Then there are others like Nishan Dimel, the economist, who says that there are other avenues. So, you know, the best thing for this government to do is that we have very senior economists in this country. Also, we have young trailblazing economists, you know, Deshal Dimel, Nishal Dimel, and when you go to the most senior level, you get the central bank former deputy governor, Mr. Vijayawardena. So all these expertise the government is not making use of. So what my request to the government is, rather than, forget about the fact that they don't want our help, but at least go and speak to these people who know their economics, who know their subject. It doesn't have to be Iran, it doesn't have to be Harsha, but go and talk to the people that at least know about this subject. Summon them for a meeting, ask them what their views are. I'm sure they want to help, because the reason that they are remaining in this country, the reason that they're staying back in this country is because they are willing to help. So at least go to these people for help. Because that's the only solution that this country has, is to take ideas, enforce them strictly, or if all that fails, at least go on a begging bowl to the IMF and make sure the IMF help us.
On that note, let's go for a quick break and take a peek at this evening's headlines from that fabulous young team that produces News First Primetime Bulletin. We'll see you on the other side of the break, shall we?
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
KDK, the leader in indoor air quality. Over 110 years in bringing you the best of Japanese innovation and technology. KDK, the reliable fan.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
රැස්වීදෙන ජීවිතේ.
University students take to the streets. Will there be power cuts even if we have fuel?
ගැටලුව යම් පමණකට අපිට මතුවෙන්න පුළුවන් ඉදිරි දින 10ක කාලය තුල.
Rifts within ruling party at local authority. government constituent parties leave the government.
ඉතින් අපි ආණ්ඩුවෙන් වෙන අතපසුවීම් වැරදි ඒවා පෙන්නලා දීම මම හිතන්නේ ආණ්ඩුව නිවැරදි කරගන්න හොඳ අවස්ථාවක්.
අපි හදාගත්ත ආණ්ඩුව ඉතින් අපි කලින් යන එක හොඳ නැහැ.
Ravi Karunanayake back to the fore, poses a challenge to the former president. China's free trade agreement, another death trap?
KDK, the leader in indoor air quality. Over 110 years in bringing you the best of Japanese innovation and technology. KDK, the reliable fan.
TV1 රැස්වීදෙන ජීවිතේ.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukutali.
Welcome back to Newsline Zoom. My guest this evening is all the way from down south, from Weligama, arguably the tourist hotspot of Sri Lanka, certainly with all those tourists with hopefully carrying dollars and euros. So it's none other than, of course, the young man from Weligama. Welcome back to you, my young man. And tell me, all these tourists, are they carrying dollars and euros and all that and depositing it and spending it in your town?
Weligama, as you know, for us has always been a hotspot for tourists. And COVID really slowed it down a little bit. So they're actually coming in numbers. Ahangama to Weligama is looking extremely good at the moment. Health regulations are somewhat being followed, not 100%, but whatever the health authorities are doing right now to make it safe is working at the moment. They are spending money, but like I said, it could be better. And hopefully it will be better in the future. But with this whole economic crisis that's going on, and when you have major news sites calling Sri Lanka a bankrupt country, now that's where it's going to really, scare the tourists when you call us a bankrupt country, because people don't really like traveling to bankrupt countries, in my opinion. Not for fun and leisure and fun and games anyway. So that's the problem that we're having at the moment. But hopefully, if this government gets their head out of wherever it is right now, I'm sure it'll work out well in the future.
And what do you say to your constituents when they come and tell you that the prices are so high? And then they must be noticing that they've got 5,000 rupee salary increases, if you like, to the private sector, the public sector, I mean, to the state employees. And these people, the 62% on daily wages, what about them?
They are suffering to an extent. For us, just the other day, I had a person who was working for the SLPP for the last election, who gave his house to the current president, as in to the current president's propaganda campaign. One of their houses were used, and he came carrying a bag of vegetables. And in that vegetables was about, I think, 500 grams of green beans, bonchi. There was also half a kilo of pumpkin. And there was, I think, 250 grams of chili. And all that for us, believe it or not, cost that person 1,300 something rupees. I think it was 1,380 rupees, if I'm not mistaken. And I asked that person what his salary is. And he said he's on a pension where he gets about 38,000 rupees a month, what they survive on. And he told me that it has come to a point where they now have to start asking money from their children who are working. Also not in the government industry, but not in the government sector, but in the private sector. And I mean, for us, when you think about the fact that someone who gets a 38,000 rupee salary as a pension, when they have to spend that little, I mean, that was all what I told you, could easily be eaten in either 1 or 2 days. So a month usually has 30 odd days. So can you just imagine for us that when they go, when you think of that bag of vegetables alone that they bought, when you multiply that by the number of days, it still comes to almost the same as what that man's salary is. And like I told you last time, the price of turmeric, the price of cardamom, the price of cabbages. And I mean, there was a robbery. There was a robbery in one of the, I'm not going to mention the supermarket's name because I could be sued. But there is a very famous supermarket chain in Veligama, who also have a supermarket chain in Veligama, where there was a robbery. And can you believe for us that in that robbery, the person who came didn't come and rob from the cash tills, where some of them had spare change from the last time for the next day, but they robbed 4 packets of MDK string hopper powder. So that's the dangerous level that this country has come to, where people are actually robbing, not for money or not because they are criminals. They are robbing to eat. They are robbing to
So they're robbing to survive.
They are robbing to survive. And when you look at that other incident which happened a few days ago, now obviously the police is calling that person is a drug addict. That's what the police love doing. The cops in this country, no sooner a man dies, says that either this man was going to show weapons or this man is a drug addict. So now this person who actually went to a supermarket and stole a bottle of cologne, and was chased by the police. And what did that guy do? He slit his own neck in the middle of the road. I mean, which sort of countries do you hear these things happening? Definitely not in developed countries, definitely not in second world countries, and definitely not in even some third world countries. So it has come to the point where people are, like you said, for us, robbing to survive. And people are slitting, some people are slitting their necks because they get caught robbing a bottle of cologne. I mean, is a bottle of cologne really, really worth a human life? And for that person to slit his own neck, what does that prove? That probably meant that he was scared to get arrested, thinking that if he does get arrested, who's going to provide for his family? That probably pushed him to commit suicide. Then at the same time, you get a 48-year-old lady who jumped out of the CID top floor today upon interrogation, right? So I mean, this is not a laughing matter, but you know, it's pathetic what has happened to this country, and it's pathetic that the leaders of this country don't have anything called empathy.
Very sobering sort of thoughts, and of course, falling from the 4th floor or today the 5th floor of the CID is, of course, you know, history is littered with such sort of cases, and one wonders whether this lady was a bona fide, if you can call it that, suicide case, or whether it was something else. You know, we would like to have.
But what I'm saying is, for us, I mean, it may be that it may be one of it could be that as well. She could have been suicidal as well. But isn't it happening far too often for us? I mean, these are not things that we are hearing about every once in a blue moon now. Since the time that this regime was brought into power, not this government, but this regime. From the time that this regime has been, how many dead bodies have we seen floating in canals? Just the other day, in one day, they found 3 bodies floating all over the place in Colombo. Before that, we had another body floating in Diyavannaga, near Parliament. I mean, when have you heard all these things happen for us? I mean, yes, we did. I'm not saying that this hasn't happened in the past, but look at the frequency of all these events, and look at how these events are taking place, where robbers are robbing supermarkets just to survive. I mean, normally we would hear someone coming and stealing bunches and bunches of money from supermarkets, but there we heard people coming and stealing things like string hopper packets for us.
Now then, Rehan, you know, you have a young family. Are you hopeful for their future in this country, or would you be telling them, look, you know, go away as soon as you can? What are your thoughts about your own children?
It's scary because I was just having this conversation with my family, I mean, probably a few days or a week ago. And this is a constant conversation that we've been having since COVID, where in one aspect, I am a politician and I want to do for my country. I want to do good for my country. I want to stand up for what's right. I want to stand up for injustice. But on the other part of the weighing scale, I have my family. I have my wife. I have my 2 little sons, my 2 little children. And my wife, you know, is a qualified, you know, she's qualified. She's got a degree from the UK, and it's come to a point where I've actually told them that relocation is an option. Obviously, right now, I won't be able to be part of that move, but I think relocation is a good enough option because I have to think like the other millions of Sri Lankans. I have to think about the well-being of my family first and what sort of country that my children will grow up watching, or what kind of leaders that they will follow. And as a father, it's a tough call for me to make. As a politician, it's an even tougher call for me to make. But, I think relocation is an option that I have given them. And if that means that I may have to shuttle up and down to see them, which will also have a heavy toll on my bank account, I think that's an option that's a risk that I may have to take. And I think my family has already started looking for us at various options and various destinations for them to relocate.
Along with this move, and those passport, the queues in the passport office and so on were not made up. They were real queues. And I also have some data to suggest that approximately 25,000 Sri Lankan origin students study abroad. And even if they were to spend on average, say, $25,000 a year, it amounts to around $700 million every year. And in 3 years' time, it's over $2.1 billion US. Now, this is clearly because the education system in our country doesn't support, doesn't sustain, and cannot sustain the full intake of people wanting to go to university. I am sure you know that there's, in any given year, there are only 30 to 35,000 state-owned university places, and another 15,000 with the private sector. So total 50,000 university places and 114 in vocational training centers. The balance, it's a veritable 50% at least, are left to their own means. And, they probably end up in the local three-wheel junction. And then they think, well, I've got a job. But the actual fact is that Sri Lanka hasn't invested enough on education so that we will be a far better educated public. Are you hopeful that when you, not if, but when you enter Parliament, that you will take a look at these very pressing needs that nobody's done for the last 73 years?
I am a huge advocate of foreign universities or private universities. It doesn't have to be foreign universities as such, but I'm a huge advocate of private universities. The reason being that even when I went to do my degree at Deakin in Melbourne, I was a huge, I really didn't want to leave this country. I want to do my education here. But then again, the results in which I got were not, it was not enough for me to enter Colombo University or Peradeniya or any of the universities here. At the same time, my brother who left Sri Lanka in 2000, he went to Australia and he never came back for us. But the minute that I went to Australia and when I did finish my studies, I desperately wanted to come back to my country and serve my country. But, without private universities, and without having foreign universities in this country, and so many of them have expressed interest. I remember there was Monash, there was so many universities that expressed their interest in coming and establishing universities here. So most of the children that are going through this whole brain drain that the country is going through, it's because of the fact that there is no such educational institutes in Sri Lanka. So there has to be a complete overhaul. Not just little amendments, not just slight amendments, but there has to be a complete, policy change in which we have, as a country, have to decide and implement. Free education is good, well and good, but I'm saying give free education not to everyone, but to those that actually need it. Filter free education. It doesn't just because we have, just because we give a lot of things free, it doesn't mean we have to do it for the rest of our lives. What I'm saying is there are enough and more lists of people in this country who need free education. Give them that, but also give the option to those that want to pay and who want to go to private universities here. So like I said, for us, there has to be a complete overhaul in the educational policy in this country. And I think that the SJB-led government will definitely make those changes.
Well, Rehan Jayawickreme, it's been wonderful talking to you. even if it is by Newsline Zoom. And I look forward very much to having you in our studios again very soon. Once, of course, the medical authorities permit me to move about. All right?
Get well soon, Faraz. Wishing you a very speedy and swift recovery.
Thank you. Thank you. And I wish you well. I do hope that you continue to represent the people's interest and to be the voice of the voiceless. And at Newsfirst, you know, you already have a ever-ready platform to highlight the people's needs and the people's voice. And we, certainly at Newsfirst, at our government, the movement, have never forgotten the forgotten people of Sri Lanka.
Thank you.
And on that note, thank you. And that's the way it was on Newsline Zoom. Take care. Have a great evening ahead of you. And Newsline will see you in some shape or form tomorrow again. Take care. And as always, God bless you.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
TV1 රැස්වීදෙන ජීවිතේ.
Newsfirst, main sponsor.
Sun all-purpose disinfectant spray.